Thank you very much. Thank you for keeping us company. Remember, you can get details regarding all the stories that have been aired this morning on our website. That is www.kbc.co.ke. I hand over to my colleague to just, take it up from there.
Okay, our conversation this morning, our first conversation this early morning is going to be basically on the resumption of second-hand clothes. This was a directive that was given by the president, but set guidelines and protocols were given by the president, even as you're with the resumption of imports when it comes to matters second-hand clothes. So even as we await that, are we really sure that when this comes into place, COVID-19 numbers or even cases won't rise, given the fact that this is one of that sector or one of that industries where when you look at the number of people, especially who just go into these places to get clothes, and when I say to these places, this is one of those wholesale markets such as Gikomba, toy market, where more of these clothes are normally sold there. So when you talk about the resumption of imports when it comes to this matters, second-hand clothes, how are we sure that COVID-19 cases won't rise? Looking at the number of traders who just depend on this kind of sector, this kind of business for their source of livelihood. This is in terms of transporters, casual workers, the traders themselves, and even Kenyans themselves who just go to these places to buy or purchase this kind of goods, not just clothes, but also the shoes in this specific areas. So the question that is still underlying is, will the COVID-19, how sure are we that the COVID-19 cases won't rise? And this is what our guests will be helping us understand this early morning. On set, we'll be joined by two guests who are the chair people of Mitumba Traders Association of Kenya. That is Teresia Njenga as well as Lawrence Munga. These are the two chair people of this body. And what you're seeing on your screen there, that is Teresia as well as Lawrence. Now, if I may just start with you, Teresia, very quickly. When you look at the resumption of imports when it comes to matters second-hand clothing, the question that Kenyans are still asking is, what are the set guidelines and protocols that you've set in place, especially for these traders? Teresia, if I may start with you.
Yeah, thank you very much. We appreciate this opportunity, and basically what we are doing is that we are working with the government. We have submitted the guidelines that are needed to lift this ban, and right now I'm not so much at liberty to speak of the people who are involved, the protocols, but what I can say is we are working towards getting the lift of the ban. And as per now, we are very, very close to lifting this ban.
Yeah, we're very, very close to lifting this ban. Teresia, remember that when you're talking about the churches reopening, there's some of the set guidelines that were being given, especially by the Interfaith Council, is that they will ensure that at least there's washing of hands, there's wearing of face masks. So when you talk about resumption of these imports, and basically when I talk about the protocols, is what do we expect to see? What kind of guidelines which are in line with the Ministry of Health do we expect to see?
Oh, yeah. First and foremost, the key thing is to make sure that we do not spread COVID-19. The health and security of people is key to this. So number one, we adhere to the measures that are put in place by the government. There is a lot of washing of hands in the markets. There is a lot of sanitizing. There is a lot of wearing of masks. Number one, as an association, we adhere to these guidelines, and we intend to get it to the marketplace. So, and basically, all the people in the market, they know. Everybody who has a shop, they must have water, running water, and soap, sanitizers, and face masks. That one we are not risking, or we are not negotiating that one. That one is key to even making sure that we'll be here tomorrow. Yeah.
Well, I like that. Clearly, again, the set protocols just in line with the Ministry of Health guidelines. But that brings me to my next question, Lawrence. What Teresia has said, again, just, the normal kind of guidelines, wearing of face masks, washing of hands, ensuring that water is there in abundance. But how practical will this be for the traders, even just for the Kenyans who are coming to buy from this market? Lawrence.
Thank you, Doreen. I think what we are doing as an association is to ensure that every person who is a trader in the market, starting from the warehouse owners to the people who are in the stalls, that we will make it easy for them to have water points where they can wash their hands, to supply sanitizers where we sanitizers, and even at times, even when possible, to even supply them with masks, and to ensure that every customer who is buying from our shops has a mask. If it's someone coming into the warehouse, they will have to sanitize. They will have to follow basically the guidelines that are there in the from the Ministry of Health. So it's upon us to make sure that all entry points in the market have watering points where people can wash their hands. We are also going ahead and we've purchased the automatic thermometers to make sure that there is random checks within the market with our young people who will be basically policing this process. So they will be at the major entry points of the market. They will be checking the temperatures of randomly, because we have millions of people coming into the market. And every sector, there are so many sub-businesses even within the market, the hotels, the places where people eat, the eateries, even their bars. We'll ensure that everywhere in the market, these protocols are being observed, because we care about our people and we want this business to run smoothly and to have healthy customers.
All right, so that is what you are planning to do, assuming that this resumption of imports come into play. But as of now, as we speak, have you put in place those things that you're saying when it comes to places to wash hands, ensuring that people come in wearing masks? As of now, is that in place?
Yes, it is in place. Since the day we had the first COVID case in the country, rumors started spreading in the market that it would be one of the places, one of the hotspots, or one of the places where there would be, prohibition of movement and entrance. So immediately we sponsored a few people, and with other organizations, we got watering points. If you visit the major entry point near the famous Mumbai warehouses, we have watering points where the borders are. We have watering points at the stages where people now where people get in and out of matatus. So we tried our best at that time, but the ban now came, and when the ban came, the market was a little bit disorganized, but now we are getting it back to order. We are making sure that there are even further protocols than we had observed previously that we are going to be that are going to be observed going forward.
Okay, that's fair enough. At least we know that in as much as we are awaiting that resumption, at least for now, there's something that you're doing even as you await that. Now, Teresia had mentioned earlier on in the earlier conversation that you are just you're just waiting for that resumption to take place. Then this is the resumption of the import when it comes to second-hand clothes. Probably you can tell us what exactly is delaying this resumption, given the fact that the economy at least was opened by the president last week.
We do not think that there is a kind of delay. What we are trying to come up, or the government is trying to come up, is the guidelines that will show us the way forward for Gikomba. Number one, let me say that people have been saying Mitumba are from people who have died of COVID-19. That one needs to be rectified. And when the guidelines comes, we have our clothes are fumigated, our clothes come with the health certificates. Those are kind of things that will be taken care of generally to the general public. The government knows when we import these clothes, they are fumigated, they are good to go. So these guidelines are just to help us and help the common mwananchi to understand that our clothes are safe. And number two, the health guidelines is the issue of the markets. Our markets have a lot of traffic. There are so many people in our markets. Mitumba Association is an umbrella body for all Mitumba sellers, all markets in the whole of Kenya. You go to Kisumu, we have Kebuye Market. Kebuye Market is a very big market, and there's a lot of traffic. The government wants to come up with guidelines on how the market should be. And we have already started, because some of this we know the basics, but the government wants to come up with something. If, for example, you come to Gikomba, we have huge traffic. The government wants to come up with guidelines to govern how Gikomba things are done. We go to Mombasa, we have markets that are, we have so many people there. Basically, what the government is coming up with is guidelines that will govern our markets. The importation is the easy part. But now what the government was trying to come up with is guidelines in the markets.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of guidelines and protocols that are going to be followed, and that is what you are really waiting for.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Lawrence, Teresia mentioned something very important, which is a question that often Kenyans would ask, especially when it comes to second-hand clothes. And she just said that probably for a Kenyan who's out there wondering, if I'm purchasing this cloth or this good from either of these places, how sure am I'm not wearing a cloth that is of someone who probably had the virus or contracted the virus, given the fact that oftentimes when these commodities are imported, they are not washed before they are sold to the public. Maybe just walk us through the process of the importation before it reaches that common Kenyan. Lawrence.
I think as a purchaser of Mitumba, we'll start with a light note. I think I'm more comfortable or I feel safer and healthier purchasing a Mitumba clothing than even purchasing a new clothing.
Okay.
And
Why
this
is
is
that?
because, you know, there's a big misconception or a huge misunderstanding or so much propaganda on these clothes. And everybody says that, or rather the stigmatization that was there is, if you're wearing or putting on second-hand clothes, you're putting on clothes that are from dead people. No, that's a big lie.
And now the misconception is that you're putting now clothes of people that have contracted the virus.
And now,
so earlier on
yes.
it was putting clothes of dead people. Now it's people with COVID.
Now that's even more fun to think about.
Yeah.
If I may take you shortly and quickly through the process of importation.
Okay.
Number one, we as Africans, or rather the third world countries, we are not the only people who put on these clothes. If you go to the first world countries, there are these thrift shops everywhere, which are basically stores for second-hand clothes. And on these stores, even the rich, or would say even those people who are in the, not even in the middle class, in the top class in the first world countries, they go to those thrift shops and they find the best designs and the highest quality of clothes in those thrift shops, and they buy them. And their textile industries are not dead. Their people are not dying. There is no stigmatization that people are wearing that were previously worn by COVID people or COVID patients. But we need to understand where we stand, not just as a country, but globally. You know, in the textile industry, there is the fashion, the fast fashion, what we are calling the fast fashion nowadays. It's a principle or a marketing gimmick by the textile industries, where you are advised or in the advertising they make sure that you buy, you wear, you throw away, then you buy again. So basically, even in the streets or in the estates of those first world countries, it is very unique to find someone putting on the same garment twice in a week, or rather twice in a lifetime. So people will put in a particular design, then they will dispose that design, and they do that for they donate to the collection points and the textile banks, and others sell. You know, others even you know, most interesting. Let me just go back there and say, others even give away the new ones because designs there go weekly or with a particular season. Okay. So maybe today the shirt I'm wearing is the one that is on fashion, and tomorrow that fashion has become obsolete. So what they do, they even give them away. Now in the collection points, what we do, when we collect these garments, the first process we do is to
just
sort.
Before you go to the collection points, Lawrence, so what you're saying is that even in the first world countries, what you call second-hand clothes are still worn, even in those countries?
Actually, it's a thriving economy.
Okay.
It's more thriving than here. if
wow,
I may
that's
add.
interesting, seeing that, these clothes come from there.
Yeah, and actually, if you read most of these publications by New York Times, they're even projecting that this business will be worth more than $1 trillion in the next 10 years. Not in Africa, not in the third world countries, but in the first world countries.
Okay.
Because of this, because there is the issue of dumping, there is the issue of climate change. Actually, I'm even surprised that people there buy most of these clothes because of the element of climate change. They say the process that it takes to produce a shirt or to produce a garment, it uses this much of water and releases this much carbon. So they are more excited as environmental advocates and protectors. They get more. They are at peace when they purchase the second-hand clothing because they believe it's doing favor to the economy, to the environment. So at the collection points, we sort these clothes.
Yeah.
The first thing we do is to sort these clothes, and when we sort these clothes, the first grade, which is grade 1, it is not sold in Africa. It's
Wow.
basically, it contains new clothes, ultra new clothes. And this first grade, it is sold in the Western Europe side. The countries in Western Europe, you know them.
Yeah.
So in what comes into Africa, especially Kenya and Nigeria and Ghana, is grade A and grade B. Most of these other African countries, they get grade C going downwards.
So meaning Kenya gets the best of the second-hand clothes.
The very best. The very best. We are not, by the standards of this, of the country and on the importation of textile clothing, we are not allowed to import clothes that are beyond grade B. And actually grade B is actually a very small percentage of it. And once these are sorted, we also, these clothes have to undergo a series of fumigations. And the reason I said when I started in a light note that I would feel more healthy or more comfortable buying a second-hand clothing is because this handling, the whole handling process, has two different forms of fumigation with chemicals that cannot actually allow some of these viruses or bacteria to survive in the clothing. And while the new clothes are being handled by people, there is physical handling of the new clothes, and the new clothes are put in the papers immediately, or those, they are covered immediately, and then shipped into the country. Some of these shipments take like 3 days to come to the country, where the virus maybe is not even dead because there is no fumigation. And then the most interesting thing, nobody washes these new clothes.
Nobody washes the new clothes.
But most of these second-hand clothes, you will find that because I know it's a second-hand clothes and it's smelling funny, which that smell is usually the fumigation aspect of it. I will go wash these clothes. So it's even more healthy. It's even safer to put on these second-hand clothes.
All right, Lawrence, I just want you to hold it right there. We'll come back so that you can explain to us more to better understand this process, at least for the benefit of that Kenyan who might be wondering, if I purchase them, will I contract the virus? For now, let's just take a very short break. We'll be back with the same conversation. Stay with us.
On the next episode of Corner.
Ya muhimu kwanza ni kujua hali yako ya status ya HIV. Bila gloves haiwezi.
Afya bora, maisha bora. Jipime, jiinue.
There are very high chances, Your Highness. Prince Justin has been controlled by Lady Helena for his entire life.
Here is your reward. child will die, saving his mother. Accept this truth.
On the next episode,
I always get along with anybody. You know, from my colleagues to the maid son.
Apology accepted.
What are you doing? Is this really how you settle things?
He says he's apologizing. I just accepted it. I can accept again if he wants.
Stop it!
You're going to pay for this
Then
piece
what?
of...
What?
Andrea! Hey, what's up? Why didn't you wait for me this morning? I went looking for you. Tell me the truth. Did I do something to upset you or what?
What did you tell her?
In Love with Ramon.
Welcome back and many thanks for staying with us. We'll continue with our conversation to better understand the guidelines and protocols set by the Mitumba Traders Association of Kenya, even as we await the resumption of imports on second-hand clothes. Now, before we went on break, we were speaking with Lawrence on the, on the aspect of these clothes. When they come to the country, how sure am I as a Kenyan I would not contract this virus? And Lawrence is just explaining to us the process. Lawrence, go on with the process.
So once as I said before, there are a series of fumigations that these clothes go through. And the most interesting part is when just before shipment, there has to be physical verification by our standards agents in the various countries where we import from. And once they certify, these containers, the clothes are put in a container. And once they are containerized, they're also fumigated again before the container is sealed, is locked and sealed for transportation to the country. Now, this brings another aspect about the lifespan of this virus.
Okay.
When you look at the World Health Organization and the CDC recommendations and understanding of this virus is that it cannot survive outside an inanimate being for a particular number of days, which is, I think, 9 days.
9 days.
And when the earliest, once the container leaves, let me take you back, from collection to sorting to fumigation to packing to loading into a ship. This process can take even 2 months.
And this is before they get into the country?
And this is even before they get into the market.
Okay.
And once they get into the ship, they will go through various climatic conditions of various regions. If it's being shipped from maybe Canada, maybe it left Canada when it was winter. By the time it's getting to the Caribbean, or by the time it's getting to the Mediterranean, around the Middle East area, it's summer. There is so much climatic variations. And that climatic variations also, according to WHO and CDC, the virus cannot survive in climatic variations. You know, once at some point it is hot, at other places it's cold, and that is even before it gets into the country. And by the time it gets to the country, the earliest shipment, a shipment by a ship can get into the country, because all these clothes, every second-hand cloth is imported via ship. Not through air or any other type of shipping. So the earliest it can get into the country is 11 days from the Near East regions, the Pakistani regions, and the latest it can get into the country is about 3 months from the Western Hemisphere. So the whole process will take a minimum of 60 days from sorting, from collection to the arrival of that shipment into the country. It will take a minimum of 60 days, and a maximum can even go into 6 months or 8 months, depending on where the ship was passing through. So that basically removes every element of fear that I would have as a purchaser of these clothes, that there is even the faintest of probabilities of getting contaminated with the virus through these clothes. So there is an element, it can't survive in inanimate conditions for 9 days. And then there is the element of time, there is the element of climatic variations that the clothes go through as they are being shipped into the country. And even when they come into the country, we don't clear them the same day. There's a process of clearing, the discharging of the ship, the offloading, the loading, the transportation. And again, it's a whole system of, or a period of time that these clothes have to go through until now they get into the market. And also, if I may add, once they get into the market, also by the time they are coming to me as a final consumer, it also takes maybe a number of days. If I'm living in Kisumu, these clothes will be offloaded in Nairobi. They will be loaded into other buses and lorries. And by the time they're getting into Kisumu, it's another 3-4 days. They will be bought by a wholesaler. Then the person who sells the cameras picks them. Then they put them on their shop, on a zianika, right on broad daylight. There is sunshine, there is everything, eliminating any available chance that there is a probability that there can be contamination of the virus through these clothes.
So, Lawrence, what you're saying is that even if the wholesaler won't necessarily wash these clothes before, or these goods before they get to the consumer, already the process itself has catered for that.
Yes.
Wow, and both of you are really in unison. That process has catered for everything. But Teresia, you also look like you wanted to add on what Lawrence was saying in regards to at least helping our viewers understand and clear any doubts when it comes to whether or not they are washed or not, given the adverse effects of COVID-19, and also given the fact that they come from areas and places where this disease has really greatly affected the people in those specific areas.
I really would want to add on to that. The smell that you hear with Mitumba, if you buy Mitumba in Kisumu, if you buy Mitumba in Meru, if you buy Mitumba in Western Kenya, if you buy Mitumba in Nairobi, wherever you buy Mitumba from, they have that particular smell. This is the smell of fumigation. This one tells you that this cloth has been fumigated and it is safe. It is clear of all or any virus. It cannot carry any virus with that fumigation. That is why you hear that Mitumba has a funny smell. That is the smell of fumigation. Mitumba is the safest. If you look at the new clothes I can buy from China, new clothes, and ship them immediately. I can buy in the morning, and by evening I'm on my plane and I'm coming back. Not even 20 hours. Even less than 20 hours, I'm in Kenya. And I'm hanging them on my shop.
And you're selling them?
Yeah, and I'm selling them. And people have started taking them. And these clothes have been handled by people. These clothes have been handled by people, not machines. People who might have that COVID-19. So with Mitumba is safe. By the time the process begins from the US or from the Western world, and by the time these clothes get here, it is not less than 2 to 3 months. Let's say, for example, a container is coming from Pakistan. That is the shortest period because we get to about 11 days. Pakistan, they don't have Mitumba. So what happens? The people there, they'll buy from Western world. They will ship them to Pakistan. The reason they have shipped them to Pakistan is because of cheap labor. They have shipped them to be sorted there, packaged there. It is cheap labor. But these clothes have traveled from the US, from Europe to Pakistan. So basically the cycle is still the same, 3 months, 90 days. And from 90 days to Nairobi, to Mombasa, to clearing to Nairobi. Nairobi now the wholesaler takes them, sells to the broker sells to the retailer now sells to the camera people. By the time this cloth gets to the end user, yule mtu wa mwisho, it has taken a lot of time. There is a huge process. So this cloth is safe, and we are telling our Kenyan people, the reason we are telling you this is we want you to be sure that our clothes cannot carry COVID-19. Even before COVID came, the government had put in place guidelines to make sure that these clothes will never come with any disease. They are safe for use. Hiyo smell unasikia mtumba ikinuka ni harufu ya dawa. That means hiyo harufu imehakikisha kwamba no virus, no disease, no plague, no nothing.
No nothing.
Yes.
Well, and you really greatly explained, that to us, at least for the benefit of our viewers who might be wondering if these commodities or these goods come from outside, outside the country, and especially from these areas like Europe, the States, where we really had so many cases of COVID-19. How sure are they, or how sure are you as a Kenyan? But the chair people, that is the chair lady as well as a chairperson, they're just explaining to us the process of these goods before they come into the country. Now, to other matters, and I'll come back to you, Teresia. When you look at the past 3 or 4 months when this ban was still in effect, how would you say it has affected this sector?
Yeah, what I can say, first of all, I want to thank the government, because when the announcement came in that we have a pandemic, the announcement in February, everybody went into panic. So nobody knew how this virus comes. Nobody knew how, nobody knew how to deal with this.
Yeah.
So what the government did, they did it to protect the Kenyan people. They did it to protect Kenya. So in that line, we want to thank them, because they took time to also, first of all, understand this virus. And what they did, when the announcement was made, we had so many containers coming. We had others in Mombasa. We had others on the high seas. And when we talked to them about them, they agreed to allow us to get those ones in the country. So first and foremost is to thank the government for their continued support. This ban did not come because they do not want us to be in business. It was to protect the Kenyan common mwananchi. It was to protect us. And now that we know, now that we are sure, we know our government is going to lift this ban, and we are going back to work. Even our people in the market, we have talked, and everybody agreed that nobody knew about this pandemic, and the government and people needed time to understand it. Now, WHO has categorically stated that this virus cannot rest on a cloth more than 9 days. Our process is more than 9 days. We have verified that. We have, the government knows, and this ban will be lifted. And number 2, let me say this.
Yeah.
After the government allowed us to remove the containers that were in Mombasa and the high seas, now we are experiencing a very dry spell in the market. People now are getting into problems. People now are getting into issues. As you know, we are people of not a lot of money. Sisi ni watu wa soko. Hakuna pesa mingi kwa soko. So what we do, so many people are surviving on loans. So many people are surviving on soft loans. Na hizo zinahitaji kulipwa. So right now watu wameanza kuingia kwa panic na kwa stress. And in those markets, let me say, we are so many. We are directly employed. We are 2 million people. Those who are directly employed by this sector, we are 2 million people. If you calculate that with the households, we are about 6,200,000 households.
So it's a huge number that depends on this
Yes.
sector for livelihood.
6,200,000 households, 24 million people who are supported by these 2 million people. So we are a big, big number. And right now, watu wameanza kuingia panic. We really want the government to lift this ban. We really want to go back to work as yesterday. Yeah, because we have liabilities that we need to cover.
Okay.
This is a growing economy. Na hii biashara yetu, it has employed so many people. We have so many youth in the market. We have so many housewives who joined the markets, and they are doing relatively well, taking care of their families. And we have so many young men who are, if they are left for a long time without work, there will be matata in the market.
There'll be matata in the market.
Yeah, there will be matata in the market, because these are the young men who do not have businesses. What they do, they come to the market to do transport business. We have the bebas, you know, the famous bebas. There are so many. In Gekomba alone, there are more than 15,000. in Gikomba alone.
Okay.
There are more than 15,000 young men who come in the morning to carry for people. If somebody buys a Mitumba here, they will carry, help the person to take it to the bus stop or wherever. And these people, every day they come, they get their 500 shillings and 1,000 per day.
Okay.
And these people, they depend on that.
All right.
If this business or this ban is not lifted, I do not know how we will survive, because these people will be hungry.
Okay. Well, Teresia, just explaining to us, you know, how this business serves a huge number of Kenyans, and many people depend on it for a source of livelihood. Finally, as you wind up, Lawrence, what are your expectations when it comes to this resumption of imports of second-hand clothes?
We expect business to run back as normal.
Yeah.
And what we are very sure about is that we want to work with the government, closely with the government, to ensure that these protocols are followed and the guidelines are followed. And we as an association, which is a broad association which now covers the whole country, our biggest desire is to make sure that we will be also be a policing eye on behalf of the government to ensure all our members are following these protocols, and everybody is keeping safe and everybody is keeping healthy. We expect, you know, it's not a very flexible business, because when the ban was lifted, there are processes that need to be done for the resumption of importation to start. Once the resumption of importation starts, we'll have another dry spell of around 90 days, as our Madam Chair has said, another spell of 90 days where we'll not be having goods in the market. Maybe 60 days we'll not be having goods in the market. So there's still a long way to go. There's still a long period of time to wait. But we thank the government, because at least there is hope. And once you have given these people hope, we know, everybody of us, once we are hopeful, we know we are going to behave and wait patiently until the goods land.
And what about you, Teresia? What are your final expectations as you bring it to a close?
My final expectation is that by the end of this week, we will have the ban lifted.
Okay.
And our people will now have hope, because there is nothing bad like people, they are coming to the market, there is no hope. That is a bad place to be. And in that, we want to tell the government that we are willing to work with them, and we are making sure that the guidelines are followed, face masks are put on, because as much as we want the ban to be lifted, we want to be in business. We also want to be alive tomorrow. We also want to be healthy, and we also want to maintain our market.
Okay.
So thank you so much for this opportunity. And we hope to see you people coming to buy Mitumba.
All right. Thank you so much, Teresia Njenga and Lawrence Munga. Those have been the Mitumba Traders Association of Kenya chair people. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for making time. Time for our next conversation, and I'm joined live by Senator Dr.